Hi, you're listening to Dusk to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction. We're your hosts, Amber and Dan.
Follow us on Instagram at Dusk to Dawn Podcast. Please rate our show wherever you're listening, and let's get started. Welcome to the podcast. We are recording this on a very appropriate day. It is Sunday, December 21st, the winter solstice.
Which also indicates that we are not ahead of schedule.
No, we're not ahead of schedule. We talk about how it'd be cool if we read like several books ahead and then stacked up content that gave us a nice cushion. We've never actually experienced that.
We did the beginning of this season. I think we were like a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead for a week.
Yeah. We have learned a lesson that we should look at how long the books we're going to talk about are.
Yeah. It's been a stressful read this time, and I think our next book will be as well, merely because of the length and how busy we are around the holidays. So I think next year we're probably going to read some short stories around December. We'll see.
But it's a good book to end the year on. I'm still glad we got through it. And it finishes off our Christmas holiday-themed reads. What are we talking about today?
Krampus.
Krampus the Yule Lord. Okay, so this book came out in 2012. And why are we reading it? This is another one that you brought to my attention. I forgot how you knew about
Well,
Brom.
I've seen Brom's books, especially Krampus. And Slewfoot came out last year, I believe. And I've seen them around, and it seemed like people enjoyed his writing. So I figured Krampus would be perfect for this podcast and it being around Christmas time. So, and you didn't know who Krampus was already before this? Or?
So here's the thing. I kind of knew there was a Krampus who was like, like naughty Santa Claus. I mean, I keep saying
naughty Santa Claus. Dang.
Yes.
Get out that
Santa
whip,
Claus
baby.
and leather. I don't know. Not really. I knew it was. I didn't know if it was a demon or something. Something that came out and beat kids and things like that. Also, there was Krampus would occasionally show up in Call of Duty over the Christmas season and chase players in the match. So I wrote about Krampus, and I have published work on Krampus.
That's hilarious.
We're going to be technical. But no, not really. I knew it was some like Eastern European thing, so I don't know. I didn't know.
It's actually German.
Oh yeah,
the origins.
I bet if you went to like
from Germany and Austria,
Poland
mainly,
and said Krampus came from Germany, they'd get mad at you.
It expanded out to like Central Eastern European, so like Slavic countries and such also have their versions. But as far as my research goes, at least it originated in like Germany, Austria area to go
but not
along
part
with
of
Saint Nicholas.
Oh crap! What are those children's tales?
Grimm?
It's not part of like Grimm, is it?
No. But so Saint Nicholas has been celebrated in Germany for a really long time. And our son celebrates it at his school. And so on the 6th of December, they have a feast celebrating, the season and Saint Nicholas. And you're supposed to clean your shoes or your boots and put them outside. And Saint Nicholas will put treats in it. So with Krampus, it's not celebrated everywhere. And like the German government and the Austrian government over the years have tried to get rid of the celebration because they're like, oh, it's mean to children. You shouldn't beat kids and stuff.
Is any of it because it's like anti-Christian or anything like that? Or is it more just...
No,
okay.
So St. Nicholas is a saint. Obviously, he can't do bad things because he's a saint. So therefore... At least in some versions, Krampus came along as the counterpart to deal with the naughty children, since St. Nicholas could not do that himself, being a saint.
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah. So then there's also like pagan ideas of him coming from paganism, and then therefore he became an evil figure once Christianity came because he became like a devil or whatever. And that's where Brom goes with it. He goes further back to connecting Krampus to Norse mythology. And I think a bit unfortunately for this book, he relies heavily on Norse mythology and makes it seem as if Krampus is, I guess, like friends.
Part of that mythology?
Yeah, part of that mythology, like friends with Loki and stuff. And Santa Claus is Odin's son. And I see where he makes that connection, but I was actually disappointed. I thought that he would pull more from German history and the German sources, which is where Krampus actually, we know he comes from that. And like you can pull on threads to make him connect to Norse mythology,
You're
but
also
he's not
heavily
Norse.
Biased.
I am incredibly biased.
Because
yeah, of course.
German background.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
But
I like
it's
Norse mythology.
I do
like the way they
too.
did it.
But Krampus is not a Norse figure, so I was a little like, oh, well,
I
wait
think
a minute,
it was
isn't he
basically-
German?
He was
So-
just like Earth spirit. It seems like in this. So
yeah. It's like it feels like Brom pulled from Norse mythology and then just continued, like made it seem like like the three kings are. They say it's like the three stars in the sky, and therefore it's in all types of different religion. And so, like that kind of concept of pulling from the winter solstice and Yuletide and such, and therefore created, like Krampus followed through the history of the changing of times and therefore became Krampus eventually. But I wanted him to be that. I mean, and he is in the book.
But
He
who
is
do
like
you
the
meet in
goat
German.
man.
Like who do people know of German mythology? What
It would be
who's the-
Krampus and Saint Nicolaus.
Oh yeah, and
So it
isn't
wouldn't
there
be
also
like
Sigurd,
Odin's
the
son.
like dragon slayer? Could there be a cameo there? Siegfried, is that it?
Yeah. So
Who's also in Norse mythology? Isn't there some crossover there?
Yes. So that's where I thought maybe the crossover would be. When I started reading this, I was like, oh, interesting. He's pulling from Norse. I wonder if there's some connection with the time period around the Nibelungenlied, because the Nibelungenlied is an epic poem that was written in, when was it written?
The olden times.
It was written about 1200 in Middle High German, so Mittelhochdeutsch. And it's the story of Siegfried and Gunther, and Siegfried goes to the town of Worms, which eventually Worms is where Martin Luther puts the decree, and says, fuck the Catholic Church, man, we're going to be Lutherans. But anyway, so he goes to this
I bet
town.
he sounded just like that.
Just like that, yeah. He was such a bro.
We got a new kind of religion, bro.
But they go there, and Siegfried goes to marry Kriemhild after he helps. So, okay, let me back up. So the Nibelungenlied is the story of Siegfried going to this town in Germany to marry Kriemhild. And Kriemhild is the sister of King Gunther. And King Gunther is who Siegfried went to, I believe it's Iceland, but it's somewhere up north in like Norse areas. But I'm pretty sure it's Iceland. And and Siegfried helps Gunther marry Brunhild, and Brunhild is like a warrior princess, and she, he has to defeat her in combat kind of thing. So she's not like, oh, look at me, I'm a little princess. So there's the connection there, because Brunhild is a big character in Middle German legend. So I thought, oh, well, maybe Krampus came around the same time as Brunhild. But no.
You know what I'm glad about? I'm glad that I got to think about my old friend Snorri Sturluson.
Right, yes. Mm-hmm. Snorri Sturluson. So important in our lives.
Snorri Sturluson. What a name, dude. And he was Icelandic. I thought, in my horrible memory, I thought he had like settled into Iceland. But no, he was just an older Icelandic in the 12th century to 13th century.
Why do we care about this dude?
Because he was a famous Icelandic poet and historian who wrote the Prose Edda, which was the handbook for Norse mythology and skaldic poetry. And it's really cool because it's divided into 2 parts. I forgot their names in their Icelandic, so let's just stick with 2 parts. The first part is like some of the stories, of which the story of Santa Claus being attached to Balder and Krampus being attached to Loki is pretty almost like copied over into the story of Krampus in a cool way. But like the stories of the gods and all that stuff, and Thor and all that fun things. And then the second half of it is talking about Icelandic verse and like how to write it. It's like an editor's guide of like, here's how this stuff works.
But isn't that the prose Edda?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the poetic Edda is what's connected to Nibelungenlied in like German.
The one where he talks about the Norse mythology, it has that 2 parts.
I think they both do, but I think the poetic Edda
maybe those are the 2
came
parts
first, and it's like it's
that much
more like Grimm fairy tales where they supposedly went around and collected stories.
Interesting.
And so there is no author, but then I think that came later and is probably connected to it. But
yeah, I'm not sure. The book I have it has like all the stories and then also the guide to Icelandic poetry. So I'm not sure if those maybe they were put together later.
But then also what's connected is the Völsunga saga, and that's also Norse. And they tell the same story of Siegfried and Brunhild that the Nibelungenlied does. So that I'm like, there's that connection, right? So I don't know if like it's from the Vikings coming down and sharing their tales, and then the Germans took it on, or if it's like the other way around. The Germans went up. The Germanic people settled England. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't really know, but it's pretty cool.
I think Snorri was some kind of like
tired elf. I mean dwarf.
Snorri Sturluson.
Hi-ho.
I think he was like some court magister or some crap like that, and I read about it. So like he had access to a lot of people where he could write down these stories, and apparently was like the definitely the best, if not really the only source of these stories in the Middle Ages. That people just, I don't know, weren't in Iceland writing this stuff down. So even though it's through the his lens of being a learned Christian, he still seems like he keeps to the stories. I don't know. So
is he like the Norse version of Tacitus, where he's like the only real one who has any say on history, right? Because didn't Tacitus...
Oh, like Tacitus?
Oh,
or I don't know.
Wrong.
Anyway,
Didn't he
Roman
he was
historian?
the only one who really knew Roman history?
Oh, I don't know.
There's like 2 people who wrote like the entire history of Rome, and they
like for early sources.
We rely on them, solely on them. I thought it was Tacitus.
You might be right.
He did write the book about the it's called like the Germania or whatever. He wrote about the Germans.
Okay.
From Rome's perspective, so I could be mixing them up. But.
I think it's similar in just that he was the guy who, in the Middle Ages, wrote all this stuff down, and no one else really did. But to answer your question, I think he was, I don't know if he was the only source, but he was the guy who put all the stories together in one place.
He was the guy.
He was the dude. So I don't remember if it was a Grimm thing where he like traveled around and was like, tell me your stories, because that's how he talked about it.
But I think those are 2 different books. There's the prose Edda and the poetic Edda.
Yeah, that might be
the poetic Edda is the Grimm version. That's anonymous stories.
Yeah.
And then I think the prose Edda is later, and it's him maybe discussing the stories. I'm not. Okay. I haven't read either of them.
Oh,
but.
I think the book I have is just puts them together.
Okay, so this is all a very long-winded way
we
of
haven't
us...
even talked about the author yet.
I know. I'm like, this is a very long-winded way of us discussing how Krampus became Norse, because he's not. So...
But it's cool. You got to make a creative decision. And
I think it's totally fine. It's just, and the fun part about it is we get to bring up all this
old-timey stories,
medieval writings, which is fun, because I highly suggest you go if you care about historical stuff. But the Nibelungenlied is a very cool read. The Völsunga Saga is as well. It sounds like the Prose
Poetic
Edda
is cool too.
Poetic Edda. Yeah, so go read some real classic literature. Predating books.
the before books.
Books before books existed. Because...
All right, hold on. Why don't we talk about the author and then do the little summary here? Let's give these people something
to hold on to. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Who's Brom?
Where's all the German gods? Okay, Brom was an army brat. So first of all, real quick, his name's Gerald Brom, but I think he's just like, call me Brom. That's the vibe I get.
Well, the fact that you said he's an army brat, my assumption is that he was always called by his last name, because isn't that what they do in the army?
Ah, there you go. Okay, well, I continue. Brom was an army brat who spent his entire youth on the move and unabashedly blames living in such places as Japan, Hawaii, Germany, and Alabama for all his afflictions.
In that order?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Who knows? He knows. From his earliest memories, he has been obsessed with the creation of the weird, the monstrous, and the beautiful. Sounds like my wife.
How romantic of him, in the capital R sense, romanticism way.
At 20, he began working full-time as a commercial illustrator in Atlanta, and 3 years later, he entered the field of fantastic art, making and developing illustrations for Dungeons & Dragons, and also other stuff that you told me about, like what?
Yeah, he designed he drew or painted or did the art, I guess, for a number of video games that we really enjoy. World of Warcraft, the OG World of Warcraft. He did Doom 2 in 1994. He did Diablo 2, 3, and 4, and Hearthstone, and a number of other games. But when I read that he did the original art for World of Warcraft, I was like, oh, that's amazing.
That's so cool. I can picture some of those covers for sure.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And he also does a lot of artwork for Magic the Gathering, right? So I think that's also, it's just his style he's got going.
Yeah, he's worked on novels and games, comics and film. He's received numerous awards, such as the Spectrum Fantastic Art Grand Master Award and the Chelsea Lifetime Achievement Award. He's recently created a series of award-winning horror novels that he both writes and illustrates, including The Plucker, an adult children's book, The Devil's Rose, a modern Western set in hell, The Child Thief, a gritty, nightmarish retelling of the Peter Pan myth, Lost Gods, one man's determined trek through the brutal landscape of purgatory, Slewfoot, which Amber is reading.
I finished it, actually.
Oh, damn. A historical horror novel of witchery and vengeance set in colonial America, and his latest, Evil in Me, a punk rock demon possession fairy tale.
I had hoped to read Lost Gods and Evil in Me.
Oh, really? Oh, you like them?
Well, I mean, even before, I wanted to read all of those in tandem with reading Krampus, just to have a better handle on his writing. And also, I just assumed I'd be able to read in December because I'm a crazy person. I only read Krampus and Slewfoot this month.
I'm disappointed. Usually have at least 6 books on the back burner.
I've also been editing a lot for work, so I've read a lot of words, just not published words. So it's unfortunate for my story graph.
Oh no, your online statistics will take a dip.
My online statistics, no, anything but that.
And yeah, Krampus, which we're talking about today, is part of that run of books which he writes and illustrates, and it's cool. It's like every chapter there's a little drawing.
But there is one horrible aspect about his books, which I have brought up in the past with a different author. Do you remember which author that was?
Grady Hendrix?
Yep. So what's the problem?
Oh, man. Okay, so the
layout.
This book, at least, I can't say the other books. Although Slewfoot looks similar.
Yeah, I did not. I had a digital copy of it, so I did not hold the physical book. But yeah, it looks the same. Yeah,
the physical book is like textbook sized, kind of.
It's like 10 by 10, which is okay, but it's paperback.
Yeah, it's paperback, and it has an infuriating feature, which is that the flaps that are usually on the cover of a hardcover are built into the paper of the book. So it's like a paperback with flaps in it. And then, so whenever you put it down, like the flap flops, and then the flap flops,
Flippity
and the
flap
cover like sticks partly up, which is a small thing that drove me crazy. Thankfully, Amber gave me a magnetic bookmark to like just keep it shut on the front. But it's just crazy because even when I see it at the bookstore, it's like the front cover is like popped up on the inside flap.
Yeah,
so,
it doesn't want to lie flat.
I don't know. It's a weird book.
So if that's the kind of thing that bothers you, read it digitally.
But also because it was a...
But then you don't see you see the pictures.
Yeah,
if you read
the
it.
pictures
Obviously,
are cool.
audiobook, you're not going to see the pictures.
I mean, the pictures are cool because it's like a tale about Christmas and Krampus and all that, and it is a bigger book. It did kind of feel like I was reading a tale in an old book, if that makes sense. So that made it kind of cool that it was bigger. And in the middle of the book were like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or whatever full color printouts of like characters that he had painted.
That's like nonfiction history books.
Yeah.
When right in the middle they have all the images of.
I hadn't noticed it. I hadn't flipped through the book, so it just surprised me. I was like, "Oh, cool pictures."
Well, it's not something you expect to find in fiction either, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So a little bit of an infuriating physical edition, but also cool because you get to see the pictures like in full form or whatever.
Yeah, and he has multiple forms of his art in one place.
Okay, should we do the summary?
Okay, so for the book itself. One Christmas Eve in a small hollow in Boone County, West Virginia, struggling songwriter Jesse Walker witnesses a strange spectacle. 7 devilish figures chasing a man in a red suit toward a sleigh and 8 reindeer. When the reindeer leap skyward, taking the sleigh, devil men, and Santa into the clouds, screams follow. Moments later, a large sack plummets back to earth, a magical sack that thrusts the down-on-his-luck singer into the clutches of the terrifying Yule Lord, Krampus. But the lines between good and evil become blurred as Jesse's new master reveals many dark secrets about the cherry-cheeked Santa Claus, including how half a millennium ago, the jolly old saint imprisoned Krampus and usurped his magic. So there's a part in this book that I just love. I mean, there are some really funny quotes, especially at first when you're getting Krampus's perspective on Santa Claus. But at one point, Santa Claus is talking to a pastor, and he's dressed like Santa, and this guy's like, "This is Jesus's birthday. Like, respect the holiday." And Santa's like, so this is the pastor speaking. "See, this here's just what I've been going on about. People get confused, especially children. Santa Claus is a fairy tale. Folks tell their children any different. Why? They're flat out lying to them." "What makes you so sure Santa Claus is not real?" Santa asked. "Ain't never laid eyes on him, have you? Have you ever set eyes on Jesus?" The Reverend hesitated. "Jesus is in my heart." I love that.
That seems great.
It's so like, logic. I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah, I got to say that with this book, I felt a little bit intimidated when I first opened it. Because as you had mentioned, it's December and everything's busy and crazy. And in the textbook form, it's 350 pages. So I think in like a normal size book form, it's probably more, 400-page book. Anyway, I was like, I hope I like this. It's a long one. And it's great. The extra length definitely gives him room to introduce cool moments with a lot of different types of characters. And none of it feels rushed. And he's still able to keep the plot moving at like a good pace, but there's quite a big cast in this book and it's handled really well. And you get just like cool moments like that running into the Reverend and other small things that just like add to the world.
Santa wiped his blade clean of blood, replaced it into its sheath. Like what? Santa has a sword?
Yeah, it's buff Santa.
It's really fun. Yeah, it is a fun read. Dan's right. There's a large cast of characters, but not overwhelming. You don't get lost in the characters, but everyone has their own story, and it's really interesting what he does with the Belsnicks.
Belsnickles.
Belsnickles. Yes, thank you.
These are Krampus's sidekicks.
Mm-hmm. And like they come from different time periods, and he holds them to him using magic, so they I guess, are immortal until he
Seems like it. Yeah, like
lets
his
them
blood
go
is in,
or
is in
dies
them.
or whatever. Yeah. And they have to do what he commands. So if he like he'll tell them to do stuff, but if he says I command it, then it's like they're out of their body and their body does whatever he says.
Which is definitely used to comedic effect sometimes, because what's cool is while they do command him and do his bidding, some of them will still openly protest, be like, ugh, I don't want to be doing this, but I'm forced to. And his Bell Snickles come from a variety of backgrounds. There's a group of 3 Shawnee Native Americans who joined him. I don't remember if they specify when, but hundreds of years ago, worshiping him as an earth god, right?
Yeah, so the way that that Krampus works in this is that back when Europeans first, quote unquote, discovered America, Santa Claus takes Krampus to America and buries him in a cave in hopes that people will forget about him. Because one of the big things about the story is that Santa Claus is so powerful because so many people believe in him. And Krampus, meanwhile, has been fading from popular culture and people don't celebrate the Yuletide and stuff. So Santa Claus is hoping that he'll die out based on being forgotten. And that's how he ends up in America. And
This definitely feels like a trope I've encountered in stories of old gods battling with new gods. It comes down to the like people needing to remember them for them to have their power.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what he was going for. But so the Shawnee were, pre-United States America, but not pre the beginning of colonialization. So at least 15th century is when they were commandeered, I guess you could say.
Yeah, most of these people he saved from certain death by like giving them his blood that allowed them to heal from their variety of wounds and things like that. And that's why, like, for example, there's Vernon, who's just an old miner who resents Krampus. And I forgot how Krampus found him, but seems just kind of like annoyed that he has to do everything Krampus tells him to do, but still goes along with it. So it's funny.
And Isabel, I like Isabel. I think she's one of my favorite characters.
She's definitely seems like the most fleshed out Belsnickel.
Yeah, and she is almost, I feel like Krampus is conscience.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, he calls her his little lion, right?
Yeah, because she's young, she's fierce, and she knows how to whip everyone into line.
Yeah, and she forms a cool friendship with our lead, Jesse, our down and out musician.
You didn't get my pun.
Oh, I was thinking
she whips everyone in line. Krampus whips people.
But he doesn't whip them. He beats them with birch sticks.
Well,
it's different.
It's the same kind of. It is. Okay. Whatever.
Smacks them into line.
Same.
Slaps them.
Yeah. Okay. Same concept.
So we basically have 2 opposing storylines that crash into each other here and makes the book interesting. We have Krampus wanting to bring Yuletide back to the world while defeating Santa Claus and stamping out Christmas. And then you have Jesse Walker, our musician, who is like got nothing going for him. His wife and daughter are living with antagonist police chief Dillard, who's just an asshole cop. But he has a nice property and lots of land and big cars and stuff.
He's
and
got
security.
The money.
Yeah, things that our down and out musician did not provide because he was too busy drinking and being a jerk off.
Well, and I think also part of it is the hesitation that he shows. He's a good musician, she thinks, but he won't take that step to pursue it. Like he keeps writing music, he keeps putting it off, Yeah,
he's a hesitant protagonist.
Yeah, he doesn't have that confidence, which I'm sure we'll figure out. And it's probably quite obvious to you, dear listener, that is part of his story arc.
Yeah, so, he's worried about his little girl and gets into trouble with the police chief and this other character, the general, who works at a I don't know. I don't know if it's a junkyard or or just a car yard or whatever, but it's a place where people get their knees busted. So he gets into some mob-like trouble, and then collides with Krampus on his quest. And I actually really liked it because I expected Krampus to just be the villain in the book, and he is as big of a character as Jesse, and it has like a very wide range of character traits, like between his, like, I don't know, his excitement as an earth god, but then he also becomes very like sullen and introspective when things aren't going well, and he just seems like a really cool character to have written.
Yeah, for being like a god or a demon, however you want to call it, he seems very human like with his emotions and such.
He might be the most fleshed out. I would argue that he's more fleshed out than Jesse. I like Jesse, but Jesse's is just like getting in his trouble over and over.
Yeah, he has his set, it's almost like a standard way that he keeps doing the same issue over, or the same problem or whatever. Yeah, I could see that. Well, I mean, it is called Krampus, the Yule Lord. That is literally the title of the book. It is
literally the title.
So I think it makes sense.
And there are other Norse beings in here too. We also have Odin's ravens, who are working with Santa Claus when they're like trying to find Krampus. And initially they're before they're even trying to find Krampus, they're trying to find Santa's sack. And the Santa sack is handled pretty well. That's cool. It's kind of like you look in this sack and it's got a whirling mist in there, and you picture the place and thing that you want, and you reach your hand out and you can grab it. But it's actually taking an actual item from an actual place. So someone on the other side would...
It's a portal.
Would see like an arm come out. So like in part of the story, Jesse uses the bag to like steal guns and money from the general without opening the safe, and that causes some shenanigans for sure. And it's cool. It's like if you ruffle up the bag or try to like squeeze it shut, it regains its nice round size, and it was clever, I thought.
It's magic.
A magic sack. And it was Loki's sack, but Santa apparently did some blood magic or something to make it his own. So there's some sketch going on with this Santa Claus.
Yeah, and there also is the connection with the Norse stuff with Loki's sack. Yeah, so the book opens with Krampus in his cave and talking about how he wants to kill Santa Claus. And it's just like, what? Like right off the bat, I was like, wait, what? We're going to kill Santa Claus? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's a multiple character POV story. It jumps around to quite a few characters' heads. I mean, it's mostly Jesse, but you also go into Dillard and the generals. I think even the general, right? For like a scene. It pretty freely jumps around, and it's cool because the fun part about getting in a bunch of different types of characters' heads in a longer book like this is it just really makes the world come alive and the characters feel real. Like I remember feeling surprised when it was like, oh, I'm like in Dillard's head, and you take his perspective more and more toward the end as he does more and more
as he unravels. And it's always fun to have like be in the perspective of an unraveling character's head. Yep. I want to talk a little bit about Santa Claus. I'm so obsessed. I'm so obsessed with how much Krampus hates Santa Claus. So when the book like first opens, Krampus says at one point, "I will always be here to remind you that it is not Santa Claus, nor is it Kris Kringle, or Father Christmas, or Sinterklaas, and it certainly is not St. Nicholas. Santa Claus is but one more of your masquerades, one more brick in your fortress." And then he implies here that like Santa Claus told him to cannibalize himself, because he says, "I did not eat my own flesh, as you had so merrily suggested." And I love just like how he throws in like, "Yay, you're so merry," right? "Madness did not take me, not even after sitting in this tomb for half a millennium." So yeah, and just
I feel like Krampus would do really well as a stage play. Like just the character of Krampus, like strutting around and making these wild exclamations. It would work really well.
Yeah, and in especially Austria, but in Bavaria and Switzerland, they do have like Krampus parades, basically, where people dress up like Krampus and walk around the streets and
With
scare
birch
people.
sticks,
Yeah,
whipping people.
Yeah, actually, sometimes like they get in trouble. Like there was one event I was reading about that. I think like 6 people ended up in the hospital with broken bones.
Okay, now I'm imagining. Hold on, real quick.
Very awkward.
Here's a story idea. We're gonna mix Taste Like Candy and Krampus the Yule Lord, and it'll be somebody like the liquor from Taste Like Candy, who goes around with birch sticks on these holidays and like beats people to death with them and hides within like the whole merrymaking.
Hell yes, yeah, and like talk shit about Santa.
Oh man, that'd be great.
I have one last quote, I promise, but I love Krampus's views on Santa. It got me. Dead? Krampus snorted, then laughed. Santa Claus dead? No. As sweet as such tidings would be, it takes much more than a hard slap to kill such vileness.
It's great, and they have some good battles. I really like their rivalry.
The juxtaposition between like what we view Santa Claus, the old, jolly guy, like the Coca-Cola commercials, and then Krampus is like, what a monster. I just love it so much. But yeah, so this was a fun book. The 2 stories, I felt in some ways didn't really make sense why they were going together, right? Like Jesse's whole thing with Dillard and like this mobster, basically the general, which of course I love. His middle name is Ulysses. That's great. But there's this whole, it could be 2 different books, really.
It did feel like he just got tangled up with Krampus and was taken along and wanted to keep doing his quest. So like the quests weren't really interlinked. It was more just like, hey, I got this other thing I got to do. So I kind of feel that same sense of like there wasn't quite enough interweaving of those 2 different narratives or motives.
Yeah, because it felt a little bit like Krampus wanted Jesse to come along to help destroy Santa, and Jesse's like, yeah, but I got this other thing I need to do, and he kept being like, yeah, but I got this other thing to do, and it's like, so I couldn't say then which story arc is the main story arc. Is it Krampus and Santa, or is it Jesse and his dealings with Dillard and such? So that was interesting. I don't think I've read a book like that that's been so like split, like has multiple personalities within the book. So, but I think it, in a sense, it added to it because it definitely did propel Krampus's story forward sometimes, but at other times it felt like, what's the connection here? So that it was interesting. I love the scene when they go into the bar and Krampus is like, open bar, Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it really is kind of a dual protagonist story, because it's like, I'd say at the end, Jesse, in that bar scene, it's really like Jesse and Krampus come alive, really, as and fully, own themselves as their characters. Because this is after Krampus finally finds some tidings in a shoe. Just when he was feeling so down about everything. He finally gets a little bit of tribute, and then he's like, all right, drinks on me.
So in the future, next year, because it's too late now, but next year you can leave a little treat out for Krampus. And he prefers schnapps, actually. In Germany, they leave out a little bit of schnapps.
So what happens, like, then does a parent go and take them out in the middle of the night? Like, or do they just like put them out and then drink them? Then, like,
I think it's like Santa's cookies, you leave them out for Santa. He eats some or all of them. And with Krampus, he drinks his schnapps and then leaves some treats.
That'd be a cool scene, like somebody sitting on their porch drinking the schnapps in their boots, and then Krampus comes up. He's like, "You're drinking my tribute? What?
You don't put it in the boot. I think you put it in a glass. But
oh, okay.
You leave your shoes out for St. Nicholas to put. And that's another one they do, like in some places, it might have been in like Hungary or something, you get like a gold stick if you were good and a silver one if you were bad, depending on.
Oh, silver's still cool.
So it's kind of the concept of the getting coal,
Yeah.
I think that originates from this concept without like beating your children about it. But yeah, so Krampus is a troublemaker. Our little Loki.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense that he's connected to Loki. I thought it worked out well.
So did you like this book?
I did. I mentioned a little bit earlier that I was a little hesitant going in just because I was like, oh, it's long and it's Krampus and Santa Claus. And if this is gimmicky, it could be a long ride. And I ended up really liking it. I thought it was really well done. It was cool to look in my copy of the Poetic Edda and check the mythology that Brom used for connecting everything to Norse gods and all that. And it was cool to see that. He connected it well, I thought. And yeah, the characters were well done. Some of them were more fleshed out than others, but it was also a large cast. So I didn't feel like there were any slogs in the book. It seemed really well paced without being, too quickly paced also. So I was surprised by it and happy that we got it in, even though it took us to the last minute. But now look at us recording on winter solstice. I think Krampus would approve.
It was meant to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're just going to skip about what we've been reading because we kind of got to wrap things up.
I read Slewfoot. It was also by Brom and very, very different. It was surprising how different that book was. And it was also very, very well written. In some ways, I almost liked that one more.
Interesting.
But it's about colonial America and just how women were mistreated by Puritans. It fit really well with the witch hunt feeling that was going on at the time. And you get really, at least I got really into how frustrated I was with the society. So he did a really good job of capturing that emotion for me.
Nice. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in reading more Brom.
Yeah, and so I was going to say I definitely want to read more of his stuff. I just didn't get around to it because it's crazy over here, guys.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, his most recent one, Evil in Me, is described as a punk rock demon possession fairy tale. And
yeah, it sounds right up
how
your
much
alley.
I like punk rock. So,
But yeah, that's it. That's all I read, and you read Krampus, right? And
I
that's
read
about
Krampus.
it. So,
yeah,
tis not the season for lots of reading.
No, and I went. Well, I mean, there is lots of reading. It was a big book, and I've started our next book, which is Fever House by Keith Rosson. We will begin the month of Rosson in January, put all this Christmas stuff behind us. We're going to start with Fever House and then talk about the sequel, The Devil by Name. And I've started it and I'm already into it. And it feels like Talk to Me because there's a dismembered hand. And that's a cool movie. So for now, I'm going to pretend that they're in the same world.
Yeah. So to clarify, in case that sounded confusing at all, we're reading.
Stan confused you with this rant.
Our first read in January is Fever House, and then our second read is The Devil by Name, which is the sequel to Fever House, both by Keith Rosson. It's a duology. And then we start February with A Natural History of Hell by Jeffrey Ford.
I'm excited. I've talked about this book before. I think in the first season I read it and had talked about reading it. And it's cool. It's short stories. That's how you know I picked it. And also, I'm just really curious because our episode, A Short Stay in Hell, continues to outperform all of our other episodes by a large margin. And we have no idea why. So I'm like, if the word hell has anything to do with it, maybe A Natural History of Hell will also do well, like A Short Stay in Hell. Or maybe there's no correlation there, and I have no idea.
I have no idea. But yeah, so who picked Fever House? Did we do that together?
I think we did that together.
I have not read either of these books.
It might have been a John recommendation.
Okay.
I think we kind of came to that one together.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, looking forward to it. So neither of us knows what we're getting into other than what Dan has already read. I mean, and I've read about it, but yeah, looking forward to it. And the new year.
Yeah. We're going to keep going strong all the way through summer.
Till summer.
Until
summer.
Yes. But that's a long way away. We have many more books and many more episodes. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you're enjoying the end of the year. Whether or not, hope the next year starts off well for everybody. And keep listening to our podcast. Please rate us and all that kind of stuff. And we will see you in the new year.
Yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, stay as happy as you can be, even if the season is not the brightest for you. Pretty soon it will be January, so keep your chin up. Read some anti-Santa Claus if you need a good chuckle. And we'll see you next year.
All right. Bye.
Well, if you've made it this far, then we didn't scare you off. Thanks for listening to Dusk to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction.
Please rate our podcast, and if you like, follow us on Instagram at Dusk to Dawn Podcast, which is also our Gmail address. Tell us what you liked or didn't like about the show, and let us know if you have any book suggestions. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.